Mysterious death of Natalie Wood, Hollywood's darkest secret. The golden star of Hollywood. This is the story of a Hollywood legend. A woman loved by millions, yet haunted by fear and secrets. Her name was Natalie Wood. Natalie was born in San Francisco in 1938. Her parents were from Russia, and they dreamed of a better life in America. From a young age, Natalie's mother believed she was special. That she was meant to be a star. At only 4 years old, Natalie appeared in her first movie. When she was 8, she acted in the famous Christmas film Miracle on 34th Street. Everyone loved her sweet smile and gentle voice. As she grew older, Natalie became one of the most famous young women in Hollywood. She starred in movies like Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story. People admired her beauty, her talent, and her grace. But Natalie was not as happy as she looked. She had a deep fear of dark water. When she was a child, a fortune teller once told her mother, "Beware of dark water. It will take her life." It sounded like a story. But many years later, those words would come true. Natalie wanted to find real love. In the 1950s, she met Robert Wagner, a handsome Hollywood actor. He was older, charming, and already a star. Natalie had always admired him, even before they met. Soon, they fell in love. In 1957, they married in a beautiful Hollywood wedding. To the public, they looked perfect, a dream couple. But behind the cameras, things were not always so perfect. There were arguments. There was jealousy. And there were secrets that no one outside their world could see. This was the beginning of a love story that would end in tragedy. The story of how Natalie Wood, one of Hollywood's brightest stars, would meet her mysterious and chilling fate. They lived a life full of glamour. Beautiful homes, parties, and movie premieres. Every magazine wanted their pictures. Every fan wanted to be them. But behind the smiles, something was changing. Robert Wagner was charming, but he was also jealous. Natalie was becoming more famous than him. Her career was rising fast. And she often worked with other famous men. Sometimes, their love turned into arguments. Friends said they could hear shouting from their home. The pressure of fame and jealousy began to grow. In 1961, Natalie starred in West Side Story. One of the biggest movies of her life. Her beauty and talent made her an international star. But her marriage was falling apart. By 1962, after 5 years together, Natalie and Robert decided to separate. It shocked Hollywood. No one believed their fairy tale was ending. Natalie tried to move on. She focused on her work and her daughter. But even with success, she felt lonely. She dated other men, including famous ones. But her heart still remembered Robert Wagner. Years passed. In 1972, fate brought them together again. They met at a party, and old feelings returned. Both had changed, both had grown. Soon after, they remarried. The same couple, the same love. But a new beginning. For a while, they seemed happy. They bought a yacht called Splendour. They sailed together, laughed together. And spent time with family and friends. But even then, something still felt uneasy. The same jealousy, the same tension, slowly started to return. In 1981, Natalie began filming a new movie. Brainstorm, with actor Christopher Walken. They became close friends. They often talked about life, art, and fame. But Robert Wagner didn't like it. He was jealous again. He thought Natalie and Christopher were too close. It was the end of November 1981. Natalie Wood wanted to relax after weeks of filming her new movie, Brainstorm. She decided to spend a weekend on her yacht, Splendour. Her husband, Robert Wagner, would join her. So would her co-star Christopher Walken. And the yacht's captain, Dennis Davern. The plan was simple. A quiet weekend near Santa Catalina Island, off the coast of California. A few friends, some wine, and peaceful time at sea. The group arrived on Friday, November 27, 1981. At first, everything seemed normal. They ate, they drank, they talked. Natalie and Christopher discussed their movie. Robert seemed calm, at least for a while. But as the night went on, things began to change. They drank more wine. The atmosphere on the yacht became tense. The captain later said there was arguing, voices rising. Between Robert and Christopher. Robert was jealous. He didn't like how close Natalie and Christopher seemed. He accused them of spending too much time together. Natalie tried to calm things down. But the argument continued late into the night. By around 10:30 p.m., she told everyone she wanted to go to bed. The others stayed up, drinking more wine. The sea grew darker, and the night colder. The next morning, something felt wrong. Natalie's room was empty. She wasn't on the yacht. And the small boat, the dinghy, was missing too. Robert said he thought she went ashore by herself. But when hours passed, and she didn't return, panic began to grow. The Coast Guard was called. Searchlights swept across the dark water. Boats and helicopters searched the area. Then, at 8 a.m. on November 29, a terrible discovery was made. Natalie Wood's body was found floating in the ocean. Not far from the yacht. She was wearing a red jacket, a flannel nightgown, and socks. The small dinghy was nearby, empty. She was only 43 years old. The news spread across the world within hours. Hollywood was in shock. How could one of its brightest stars die so suddenly? For more than 30 years. The world believed that Natalie Wood's death was an accident. Her fans moved on. Hollywood grew quieter. And her husband, Robert Wagner, continued to act. But the mystery never truly rested. There were always whispers. And one man who could never forget what he saw. The yacht's captain, Dennis Davern. In 2011, Dennis Davern finally spoke again. He said he had kept quiet for years because of fear and pressure. But now, he wanted to tell the truth. He revealed that on the night of Natalie's death, he heard a loud fight between Robert Wagner and Natalie. He said it wasn't just words, it was anger. According to Dennis, Wagner accused Natalie of flirting with Christopher Walken. They argued in their cabin. And moments later, the yacht went silent. Then, Natalie was gone. Dennis also said something shocking. Wagner didn't let him immediately call for help. He said Wagner wanted to wait. Believing Natalie had just gone off in the small boat to cool down. Hours passed before anyone contacted the Coast Guard. By that time, the ocean had already taken her. His confession made headlines around the world. Investigators re-examined the old evidence. They re-interviewed witnesses. They sent the coroner's report for review. And the results were surprising. The coroner changed Natalie's cause of death. From accidental drowning to drowning and other undetermined factors. That meant the case was no longer clear. Something might have happened before she entered the water. The new report noted bruises and marks. That looked more like those from a struggle. Not just from falling overboard. Even Christopher Walken, who was on the boat that night, rarely spoke about it. When he finally did, he said he didn't see what happened. And that the truth went down with